bigger, and now she's starring in her own TV show.
Welcome to Soul Guide with Vondie Lozano, a show about past lives, life between lives, and this life.
Hey, everybody. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I'm Vondie Lozano, and we have a very special guest, my dear friend, Leah Roman. So let me bring Leah into the stream here. Hi, Leah. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Thank you so much. So, one of the things I like to do is just share a little bit about your background so people can kind of connect with you and get to know you. So, before we talk about the big things you're doing today, maybe just a little bit about where you grew up, and then I'll ask a little more.
Okay, so I grew up and I'm still here in Oxnard, California. I love this place so much. I I grew up with my brother and I, and I could say that my childhood was full of a lot of play. So
Oh, well, perfect for this month.
yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing that comes to mind for me, and I I've just I've always been on the creative path, and so that took me into a world of fashion design at one point. So there was fashion design that included outdoor clothing, and then also another company for shoes. Then I'd also work here and there in the entertainment industry, um, sometimes in front of the camera, not so much, but a lot of times behind the camera. And then hanging out with the hair and makeup crew was really fun. So then my next career was going into hair and makeup. And so I had done that for about, gosh, I think it's been like 11 years. And that is a whole another level of inspiring people. So
Inspiring women, I will say.
yeah, oh, women absolutely had been that's been my main goal for so many years. And then turned into acting. So I went as a hair and makeup artist, I was creating videos. And ever
Right.
since I was a little girl, I've always loved acting. And I had like small roles here and there. And I just never paid attention to that. But I found another path telling my story, inspiring women through doing hair and makeup, because I also ended up doing, I used to call them peace, love, and beauty workshops, trying
Mhm.
to let women know that what they see on social media or with celebrities is it's not the truth, and do not
Right.
compare yourself. So then led me to acting, and it was because of the pandemic when I was there staring at a wall, as you know, hairstylist, makeup artist, that whole
Oh,
industry.
right. Everybody was shut down. Right.
Yeah, so I'm just staring, and that loud voice of the acting, it got louder because there was nothing else to distract me. And I thought, all right, I think I'm going to take it seriously. And it was even during the pandemic, I had a small role, a reenactment for Ghost Adventures.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm. Mhm.
it was very interesting. I was at the Cecil Hotel, which is a very famous hotel.
Mhm.
And that just, it started getting bigger and bigger. And I started making goals. And then I got hired by an agency. And then here I am. I mean, I'm in the middle. It's about 2 years later, and I'm on the verge of just greatness. And I'm so excited. And I will still use that platform to inspire women, to inspire people by telling different stories that human beings can relate to.
Yeah, and it's been so fun to be a part of your journey. And yeah, I can see people popping up into the stream, which is really fun.
Mm.
So, and then just a little bit about your family now. I mean, I know, but for everybody else.
Oh, yeah, sure. So my family now consists of my daughter. She's going to be 19, and my husband, who is a very hard working construction worker,
Mhm.
and my
And
little
TJ.
TJ. Exactly. And we are very close to having another fur baby addition to the family. So we are in the works of rescuing a puppy, and I'm so excited. And
Oh,
TJ
great.
actually is getting along. We had a meet and greet, and TJ got along with this dog. And TJ has been the only fur child for 10 years. So to bring in another one, it hasn't been easy because we'll foster sometimes, and he's like, "Get away from me, kid." But this one, I think
He
there's
might be the
something
one. Well, I
there.
do love TJ. Okay,
Yeah.
so I see people chiming in, which is very exciting. Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here. And so I just wanted to say one quick question before we start talking about your lives, your various lives. I have more of your past lives than anybody else because of you attending some of the group past life events. But can you just say a little bit about what drew you to this kind of work? I know because as a kid you've always kind of been into this, but just maybe a tidbit for everybody before we jump into the lives.
Wow, this is yeah, going back to being a kid, I remember going to the Oxnard Public Library probably weekly. My mom would make sure that we went to the library, and I would end up with a pile of books this high, which was all supernatural, paranormal, all these ghost books. I was just obsessed with, the other side. And I
Mhm.
would always do all that research. And I think doing that too, it also allowed me to, I would see things and hear things. And it was always, sometimes it was scary, but overall it was very fascinating. My mom was also into that stuff, so we had that to get excited about together. And then yeah, I just always been into the paranormal, the other side. And then in 2014, randomly came across a Facebook post for a meditation group, and I went there, and oh my goodness, that's where now Sarah is my dear friend, our dear friend actually.
Mhm. Right,
And
how we met.
yep. And she was running this group. And I always say this story. When I met her, I did, this was somebody's home. And I'm just going in, I'm like kind of scared, don't know what I'm doing. But the moment I walked in, there were so many people. You could feel their energy, their intention. They were there with love. And here comes Sarah, the host. She glided. That's what she looked like to me. She was just gliding across to greet me, and she was so wonderful. And I'll never forget that first session. I even feel emotional about it now because it opened up this gateway to an unconditional, pure love that I can't remember that I had ever felt that in my human form before. It was so beautiful. So from then on, I went. She had it every Sunday, and I would go, and I would go, and my spiritual side and my connection to my higher self, it just grew and grew. And then it led me to meeting you, Vondie. And in that time period, for our mastermind group, I was trying to figure out how to focus and continue inspiring women as a hair and makeup artist, like doing my workshops. And so I created beauty therapy. And the funny thing, I remember I wasn't really talking that much about acting yet, but you said, yeah, celebrity. You're celebrity. Say
I
that. And I was
remember.
like, ew, no, don't tell me that word. Like, it was so uncomfortable for me. And so I kind of feel like you planted that seed. And so
I think I just downloaded the message. So so let's kind of move into your sessions because I think people are excited to hear about how you became the celebrity that you are becoming.
yeah.
So I have so many. I have my notes posted back here, but the first one is, do you remember Millie?
Oh yes, I do.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what you remember and then I'll fill in some of the gaps.
Sure. So Millie was this trailblazer. I could still, when I went back to listen to the sessions, I embodied her again, and I felt that she was a powerful presence. And she was a trailblazer, and she was an author. And and it was 1920s, I
Yeah,
believe. So
29 and she was 22 and then her book was when she was 30.
yes. And so the craziest thing is, first of all, I'm not good with math. So when I went back and I was listening to the session and I was doing the calculations, saying what age I was with the year we were going, it added up. It was so crazy. Like, it was just amazing. But Millie, she was she was smoking. She was just so cool. And she
Didn't
was
she emerge
so,
in a party? I
Yes.
remember. Yeah. I was
Yes, and
like,
people
I
were
don't get it. It was
dancing.
like a New York book party or something.
Yes, yes. So we were there. But I do remember, even though she did have, these, she was powerful and she was creative and she was inspirational, but she was lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I wrote down, that she wished at the end of her life. Well, go ahead. I finished what you
Oh
were going to
yeah,
say about
no,
being alone.
she was lonely, and she probably should have taken more risks in love and
Yeah.
getting closer.
Yeah. That's
She
what I
did
wrote.
have a lover, um, who seemed very handsome, by the way, but
Mhm.
nothing really became of that. And it's really interesting, thinking of the different lives, because when you compare them to the life you're living now, there's little nuggets of truth that you're carrying with you. It's so fascinating. And the one thing that I do think needs to happen is actually healing from some of that stuff, because
Yeah.
if we carry it with us, yes, it could still be true to us, but we can heal that life. So we're not carrying that unnecessary pain or burdens here, because we got enough, with here.
Right. Right. With this life. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't remember if you went to a place of healing, but a lot of times people go to a place of healing when they cross over. I don't know if you did. I think you went straight to your soul group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't recall that. No,
Okay.
because overall it was a wonderful life. And it kind of was like, yes, I should have, maybe took more risk in love, but it wasn't detrimental to anything. So it's
Right.
kind of like, okay, you learned that and now move on. So I don't really feel like she even needed to have this whole healing going on.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Well, and I wrote a little bit of when you crossed over, you met your guide, which was
Mhm.
Sam. Do you want to tell
Mhm.
people who Sam is?
Oh, so the energy of Sam was actually felt so much, and it's my father who had passed away in
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah.
And I have to say again, his presence when um in 2014, when I did the meditations, I feel like he was waiting to find a place to like burst in and have his strong presence. Um, when I would do my meditations, he would pop up. And here's the crazy thing: is during one of those meditations, um, there was, we're getting guided, and it says your guide is putting their hand, they're behind you, putting their hand on your shoulder, and you'll turn around, and it will be revealed who your guide is. It was my dad again, and then here we come over here, and there's Sam, and there's something so beautiful about that. And that's what I like to believe, because that does bring me that comfort of knowing, yep, he's there. He is guiding me in so many ways. It's just magical.
Yeah. Well, and he comes through again in your life between lives. But after Millie's life, I remember he said the lessons were self worth, strength, and that if you heal that, then you could inspire other women. And I don't remember if the book was about women, but I remember it was about strength, or if it was just that you were a woman writing a book. And that was the part that, but he said it was groundbreaking. I remember it was a
Yes.
groundbreaking life.
Well, when I went back to do some research, doing the Googling and seeing who is this, there was, I want to say her name was probably Mildred. That's why I called myself Millie. So, but there were some interesting, I was trying to put it together and see, ooh, was it this? Well, there was a Mildred. Now the timing wasn't the same, but it was interesting. She was a very interesting character who did write books, and it was along the line of almost female empowerment. So I was like, oh, I want that one to be, I hope that one's me.
And the dates don't always line up exactly with
Yeah.
that. Okay.
No, but it was fascinating. And she was very eccentric, and she was into like palm reading, and and so I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I want that.
I think that might have been you. Okay, and I can't remember if this one happened before or after we did your individual sessions. It might have actually been after, but I'm gonna throw it in now. And that would be the plantation life. And you've done others. I remember we had even other past lives, but this was the one that stood out to me because you were
This,
really emotional when you came up front to share about it in the group setting.
yes. So that was after our sessions, I believe, because after I did my session, my one-on-one with you, every group that you had, that I was like, I'm there. If I was able to be there, I'm there. That's why I was just discovering so much. And even those were very powerful.
Mhm,
Even if you were reading to a group and guiding us all as a group, it still was so powerful. Other people, not just myself, but other people going up sharing and crying because it was
mhm.
just so real. So the one that I had, which I love this life. It was so neat. It ended tragically, but there was a message even in that. So, um, in this life, now there was no name, but in this life, I had a gift and it ran in my family amongst the women. And my gift, it was like a mediumship or being psychic. And
Mhm.
so I would have secret meetings for other women that were experiencing that, because in those times, there was always the witch hunts. And
Mhm.
so even
And
though
and when was the time? It was on a plantation, so do you remember the date?
I don't remember the date, it was
But it Yeah, but it
18.
was on a plantation during
Yeah.
slave times. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I had to have, it was almost like secret society so we could not feel alone and we could have support with each other. And I remember there was a time there and I could see like candles and just, it wasn't witchcraft. It was literally just, communicating to the other side or using your
Right.
psychic abilities. But of course, in that time period, that
Yeah,
was, you were a witch. And
probably,
so
yeah.
what happened was, um, a bunch of men broke
I
into my house,
I remember.
dragged me out, and they burned me at the
I
stake.
remember
And
you said you could even feel it.
yep. And I think I really do. I took that life with me, and I really relate because look at this. I even have my little
Look at you.
witchy witchy. Yes, that's why I
Yeah,
embrace it now. I embrace it now. Thanks for burning me.
yeah.
But yeah. So the lesson though that came out of that, this is why it was really emotional. Was it was relationships with men. So that's why in this lifetime I brought in some sort of, maybe my guard up, with men, and maybe not trusting as much, even though nothing when I was younger that I could think of really, shook me to where I was like, oh, I hate men. I mean, I don't hate men, but it's just like I having that, like, this group of men taking me, burning me at the stake, and yes, feeling it while it was happening. It was just so tragic. But I do feel like there was some work to be done with my relationships with men because of that. And gosh, I mean, that's what's so powerful about going into these lives and taking from it something that you can learn, or something that you go, aha, oh my
Right, right.
gosh.
Yeah. In fact, thank you for saying that because when I first heard about past life hypnosis, past life regression, I was like, I don't get it. What's the point? So I was Cleopatra, and most people aren't anybody famous, but
Yeah.
I didn't understand the draw. And it wasn't until I learned about the Michael Newton protocol. And part of it is we do a past life as a way to enter into the other side. But also, we go back to these lives, and oftentimes they have a strong meaning. The guides will actually show us a life that has a meaning for what you're working on today. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, so speaking of, there's one more past life before we talk about your life between life session. It actually happened in your life between life session. But do you remember the Egyptian royalty life?
Hmm. Yes, I do. Oh yeah, I forgot that was
That was in your
with the,
LBL, actually.
okay. So that's very interesting because there was another time when I was doing meditation, and same thing. So I mean that was just really neat. And actually and so now I'm not sure if I'm getting them confused, but it was where me and my daughter were actually in that life together. So I'm not sure if that was in this or it was in that
It was
meditation. But
Egyptian royalty, there was a close family, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but if this was in the plantation life or this life, you did something with women and, like, color?
oh, that was
Is that the Egyptian life?
nope, that was something else, almost like a Renaissance time. That was
Was that
when
a
I was
different life?
Yes, that was a different
Okay.
life, and that was where I was helping women, and I in this one I remember my death, because these women I was helping that teaching them how to, yes, we would paint, we would
Yeah.
bake bread,
Yeah.
they would come
Yeah.
to, yeah, and I
Mhm.
just remember everything being like bricks, like brick where I lived was, that's why I kind of think was maybe Renaissance time or something, but it was, there was no electricity or anything like that, so doing these things, and I would have these women, and yes, it was painting, it was baking bread, and so when it came to my death, it was actually very beautiful and peaceful, where I was laying down and they came together and they were brushing my hair, and just, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I
So
remember when we walked through that one in the group, we said, "Oh my gosh, it's what you're doing now. Is you're
yes,
helping women,
yeah,
with coloring and color and painting themselves and feeling
yeah,
beautiful and healing." So there's just been this trajectory of inspiring and healing and being out there on the cutting edge for women.
yeah, and I do remember, um there was one point, it was an hour session, and it was, I think it was the in between, as to why I chose, like I've never been, this is the most interesting thing, is I've never chosen to be a male in any
Oh
life.
yeah, they said you said you I don't usually choose male lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, and what I have loved about the lives is like what you just said, the whole thing about just having, women come together and empowering each other, that has, it's so amazing, because then here I am, and it's so strong in me again, and just finding a different avenues to do that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that must be my, I think of myself as like a little ball of light, and in the very middle, the little core of that, that's my soul's purpose
Yes.
forever and
Yeah.
ever and ever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and one of the things that we ask that I didn't ask when we had your session, but I've learned to since ask is what characteristics do you take with you through all your lives?
Oh,
And I'm
that's
hearing
interesting.
that I'm hearing that might be yours. Okay, so let's move forward to the life between lives because I just want to be aware of the time
Sure.
and make sure we get to the LBL.
Hmm.
So in that life, you were Janice.
Hmm.
And why don't you fill us in? Like I said, share what you remember, and then I'll fill in a little bit of the gaps.
So Janice was cool.
You wore
Janice was,
beads. I went
mhm,
back and listened.
yep, yep, barefoot, bunch of necklaces. She's a songwriter. I remember, I think she was at a music festival when,
1972, does that ring
yeah.
any bells? Janice, 1972?
Oh yeah, I would want it to be her too. So, but it was actually, again, this is a woman who is very creative, very powerful, influential, and yet lonely,
Mhm.
and actually pretty much died alone. She had friends with her, with Frank and,
Mary and Frank, yeah.
yep, um, by her side, but at the same time there was times where she was not very accessible, even with her friends, so the way that she died, I mean, and then the council was kind of like, girl, you wasted your talent.
Right, 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 right.
You
Yeah,
got to do better next
I
time.
know. Well, we're gonna get to that in just a second. So we have people chiming in. Janice Joplin. So what do you think, Leah? I
I
know
want
you
to
don't
say,
want
heck,
to. I was gonna say I know your ego doesn't want to say yes because you're modest, but what does your gut say?
I have a T-shirt of her, and I look at her. I'm like, is that you? I don't know. I don't even want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds pretty close to me. It's you were in Connecticut, 1972, drinking, writing songs,
Yeah,
and then you died at 32. So I don't know what age she passed, but
27, I believe.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
you started out at 27, and I wrote down you died at 32, but that might be off. I just wrote down, but we emerged at 27.
yeah.
Okay, and then I remember you passed over and for those of you who, are new to this, when you cross over, we go to the moment right after death, so it's not like we make you go through the actual dying part. And then you crossed over and you were met by Sam again,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm.
where we learned your immortal soul name. Do you remember what that was?
Oh my, no. Oh,
Angel.
yes. Oh, wait, yes, yes, right when I said, I don't know.
You were just getting ready to say it, huh?
Yes. I did. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, my
Mhm.
little halo.
And he said, "This soul is something special." There was a little bit of sadness. I remember you had some sadness that you felt like you didn't reach your potential. You had to kind of forgive yourself for that. But he just kept saying, so much potential. Again, the self worth issue, but just so much potential. And he said, she's something special. I remember
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like now in my life now, I'm finally stepping into feeling that way, which is so freeing. And I try not to beat myself up to say, which we all should never beat ourselves up to say, oh, why couldn't I have done that sooner or felt that way sooner? But I really believe that everything is in its
Right.
due time.
We get there when we get there.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and do you remember much more about Sam? Like I said, I listened to him and have my notes, so I remember a little more maybe. And plus, I'm not underwater like you are, or as underwater.
Yeah. No, I did.
Okay.
I don't know if I heard that. I had
There,
two.
there was a little bit of a part about he wasn't with you in the Leah life. Do you remember? And it
Mm-mm.
was because in this life you were supposed to be independent.
Oh, yes. Oh, I do remember because there was a reason. Partly, yes, I remember also choosing this life to there was to have a little struggle so then I could be independent. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
I think those were the main things. Something special, angel, and that life and what you're working on is not suppressing your gifts.
Yeah, yeah, and I finally feel like so when I go went through those sessions, I almost felt like it planted a seed because it was a while ago when we had
Yeah,
them.
a few years ago.
Yeah, so that seed was there, and it's just it has grown and grown, and I've had patience with that, and
Plus, you have
it's
me reminding you of it every once in a while.
yeah, that's right. Do you remember? Go big. Remember, don't play small. Yeah, you would always
Mhm.
tell me that. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So then you went to your soul group, which was about 30 souls, and your primary soulmate was there. His name was Chris. But do you
mhm.
remember who he was in the life of Janice?
Who he was in the life of Janice. Um,
Frank.
oh, okay, okay,
And
yeah.
who he is in the life of Leah?
Vince, right?
Yeah, your husband.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
then and when you met him, you burst into tears.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Do
I've
you
been kind of
remember
feel
what?
like that.
Yeah.
Remember
I know.
that.
I try to warn people when we walk through it, it'll kind of reprocess it a little bit, but
Yeah.
do you remember what it was that you were sad about and when you met him in your soul group? That you had had
Ah,
as an agreement, what a soul contract is what we
yeah.
would call it today,
Mhm.
in a past life to be strong, but that you were too strong and you hurt him.
Oh, oh yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
What's the dang?
Cuz I mean, I feel like where I'm at now, I feel very strong and it is difficult when you are in a relationship for other people to see some transformation happening in you when they're supportive, but at the same time it's kind of like, whoa, where's the person at that I know, it
Yeah,
gets
you're
it's kind
changing.
of it's tough. And so you have to always remind that person that no, it's you, like, I love you, and so I give grace to say thank you for allowing me to like grow, and
Right.
but it's so crazy because it's almost um the same thing, but in this time I feel like in this life of what we're working through together, um there's a little bit more of like a stronger bond, and knowing that we would be able to hopefully even become closer. But it is such a tough, it is it's so tough when someone is going through like spiritual awakening or learning all these things.
Right.
It is tough.
Yeah, no, well, and my husband, God bless him, who's watching today and sometimes even helps us with the show when need to. He always says, "What happened to you?" You know, "You were working at a church when I met you, a Presbyterian church."
Yes,
So,
and I was acting like Janis Joplin when I met Vince, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah. What a
and then
long
it's
way you have
yeah,
come.
yeah.
So, yeah, and you said in this life the goal was to focus on pure love.
Yes, and boy, has that been something, and there's always another layer to peel of that. I mean, there's so many in our human form, there's just so many complications, but it's a lot of it is like fluff. Like it doesn't really have to be there, but we do have to work through it so we can understand that we are worthy of pure love and that that's what we are. You know, that's what we're made
Exactly.
of. Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I wanted to move to the council, but before we do that, I wanted to see if we had our video, which would have just a little bit about what Leah's going to encounter in her council. So let me see if we have that going. I think my assistant is pulling it up. Private chat. Oh, let me look and see if we have it. Let's see. I don't see it yet.
Mm.
Oh, it's in Slack. Can someone get it from Slack and put it in here and on Trello? Okay, so we will go ahead and start sharing a little bit about it, and then I will let Leticia get the video, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody. We have a lot of people helping us bring the show to you today. And this video is especially tricky because it's the first one we did of a council, not just a past life. Okay, so moving over to your council, and actually, let me see if there was anything else in your soul group. I do know
Describe
that
your
you visited.
travel route
Oh,
now.
here we go.
Hmm.
I'd like to know what you see and do along the way and what happens when you get there.
Just see a lot of white light, almost puffy, almost like a cloud blocking the path.
Okay. And when you get there, tell me about the space around you where this jury will take place.
Like a bubble.
A bubble? And how many beings are there waiting for you in this bubble?
It's 5.
Okay. And how are you feeling as you prepare to?
White and cloth, like flowy.
Okay. Like robes, kind of?
Mhm.
And do they appear as human figures or energy?
Almost like both. They're kind of human-like, but almost like see-through, just
Mhm.
like a vapor.
Mm-hmm. And then is Leah zoning in on the correct business path?
Yes. And it's even bigger than that.
Oh. Could you share with us what's even bigger?
A lot of influence. Could grow to be pretty big.
Pretty big. And do they have any suggestions for how to not be afraid of the success for Leah?
To listen to that voice that keeps saying, branch out, put yourself out there. Just don't be afraid.
So back to go bigger.
Mhm.
Okay. Great.
Wow. How is that for you, Leah, to hear that?
It was it feels, I feel so much joy and happiness because I'm finally now, a few years later after that, living that and believing that and not being afraid. And that is huge. And um oh, it feels so wonderful.
Yeah. I know I always like to remind you of the part. Do you remember where the one woman leaned like up, like
Yes.
I picture her like right close to your face. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm just standing there and they seem bigger, the energy's bigger. And it was just like she came up to me. It just felt like in my face and it was almost like kind of, I don't want to say scolding me, but it kind of was like,
They were a little bit in yours. In
yeah.
fact, I wrote some of it down. So they said, you have strength and huge potential, but in the last life, they thought you were a little lazy.
Mhm.
And they said, stop playing around. You've got this. And she specifically said, don't dumb yourself down. Don't be afraid to shine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that other people can judge, they said.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh yeah. And I feel it took time to get to this point. So I think that's why it's a big deal, when people do this work, to not think that the next day after you're, yay, I'm going to be there. It just, you got to continue the practice and continue just seriously believing in yourself and believing in your worth. And that's just the message I've always wanted to share with people. And then and I think I was always doing that so I can also convince myself.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And then, yeah, and here I am. I feel like, wow, I'm actually now, I feel like I'm so much more standing in my own power, which makes me even more powerful to share with other people and hopefully inspire other people. So it's just, and I feel like that's what all my lives were about, like bringing people together. We can do this, whatever it is. And just, and I love that. And that is what brings me the most joy is when someone tells me, man, you inspired me to do this, or
Yeah.
man, you just
Yeah.
inspired me. It just fills me up so much.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking, it's funny, I remember most things, but with these, I kind of go underwater with you a little bit. But I got some tidbits where at one point you said the friendships are what you enjoy the most, even in the soul group and on the other side. And
Mhm.
then they said, what we just heard in the recording, you could have a lot of influence, you could become pretty big, just can't be afraid of the success. And you're not afraid of the success anymore. And I remember when we heard it, you were doing some coaching at the time and you said, am I on the right path? And they said, yes. Oh, and you asked, we asked, because the way it works is you can bring session questions to the session and then I'll ask them, but you're the one giving me the answers. It's different than like a medium or psychic. I'm not
Mhm.
telling you what I'm seeing. You're telling me what you're seeing unfold,
Mhm.
which is why it's so much more real and emotional. But
Mhm.
I asked your question, will Leah be financially abundant? And they were like, yes. I think they jumped up and said,
Yeah, I was like,
yes.
it almost was like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. It, yeah,
And
just so,
but they said even bigger. That's what I
mhm.
was gonna say. Was she on the right career path? And you were
Yeah, it's even bigger. Yeah,
they
exactly.
said we were both like afterwards, did you hear that? In
Yeah.
fact, you remember what we both heard?
Yep. Oprah.
Oprah.
And it wasn't even, we just heard, oh, that is so crazy. Yes, I do. I remember.
Afterwards,
Oh,
I was like, you know what I heard? I can't remember which one of us said it, but we were like, oh my God, I heard that too.
yeah. Yep.
It was crazy.
That was,
Okay. Oh, and welcome, Jose. I see Ola. Thank you for those of you chiming in. So we know that you're here with us, listening and watching Leah share her beautiful, amazing story.
yeah.
I know. To me, it's just so incredible to have watched you on this journey and
Oh,
to be the one. For some reason, the woman is the one that always stuck in my brain when she would say, "Don't be afraid, go bigger."
yeah. She's the one that I see the most. Like she was almost like there's all these other people in the council, but she was like the judge or like, the most important one of them all, like the ruler. So it was, yeah, I think of that often and I see her in front of me. And it's also on a subconscious level too. And so just like keeping that there and trying to remember that. And it was nice to revisit listening to past lives, and just being enlightened by that all over again. Because you go back and you're processing it. I mean, the fact of me talking about certain things again brings me so much emotion. It's just like, whoa, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful. And I feel, again, like feeling like stepping into that. And now my path, I just feel like it's turning into a breeze. I'm just walking straight
I
to where
know.
I need to be.
I know. And David's saying, wow, what a powerful message. So before we talk about you actually went to your soul group a couple times, but I think that what we're going to probably talk about before we wrap up is the last stop, which was the Life Between Lives session. But before we do that, or excuse me, the place of life body selection, do you want to share a little bit about what you are doing now that you
Mhm.
have gone bigger and where you are
Yeah, it's
in your career?
incredible. I mean, I made this decision. I think there are no accidents. I just leading up to all this and doing all this inner work. By no means am I perfect or have it down, but the willingness and the intentions that I do have, it has led me right where I need to be. So I somehow found myself. I mean, it was an intense audition process. Don't get me wrong, but I went and auditioned for. At the time, you don't really know what you're doing. You're like, okay, I'll audition for this, and I went for this role. Um,
And we know
and
you can only say so much because it's new.
yeah, yes. So I went for this role, and I had one audition. I got a call back, and then I thought I screwed it up. I was like, forget it. I'm not going to get this. But they called me back. They loved the audition. I'm like, you did? Okay. So this time it was in person. It was a chemistry with the other potential castmates, and went through that. It felt so good. And it surrounds the paranormal. Okay. So going back to me being a little kid, checking out those big books and I knew in my soul, and I remember talking to you about it. We knew this is it. This
This is
is
your
meant
role.
for you.
This is you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, but I don't understand. They didn't call back right away. And then once they did, finally called me at the end of all this it started back in November. And now we just barely filmed the trailer for it. But when they called me up and said, hey, how would you like to be the lead in this TV show? And that's not even what I went out for,
I
but it
know.
just was like, oh, I was all, what the heck? Yes. And when we went to go film the trailer, it just all felt right. Even one of the girls said, it seems so right that you're the one, like you're the main, like she said, the spokesperson or whatever, and she goes,
The main character, yeah.
yeah, it just worked out. And then even from there now, in recent weeks, I've met with a very influential person in the film industry who told me, he said, I once got my big break. Someone gave me a break, and now it's time for, like, he's been paying it forward for so many years. And somehow the way we met, it's amazing because now he's like, wow, he's told me, wow, you've impressed me. And and so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting the right people. There's no accidents. Like, I don't have time to go into it, but the way I met this person was just, what the heck, chance. And so then it's turned into something else, to where there's, my counsel said to go big, and I'm
You're
going.
going big. Well, and you also filmed a small movie that I don't know
Oh,
if
I
you're able
did.
to talk about that.
Oh, I did. And that was neat. I mean, the interesting thing is lately I've been getting auditions for a lot of short films. And it's funny, it's all about a
Women.
woman,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
who is wounded and maybe battered, but she becomes strong and she breaks out of it. And then, yeah, so it's so crazy. And these are the messages I want people to feel empowered. I want, especially women, I do, and so I have a feeling with a lot of these projects that I'm able to choose, I'm going to be able to use my voice for that. I also just tomorrow I'll film. I booked a worldwide commercial, which is really cool, and so it's like, what the heck? And I try not to beat myself up again, because I'm like, oh my gosh, ever since I was a little girl, I've loved this stuff, to be an actor. But you know what? Right now is the right time. Like, I am
Exactly.
needed right now. And
Right.
so I'm just taking it. And I mean, I still have, God willing, like, 50 more years.
Well, and
So
just so you know, David Ortiz is saying, wow, what a powerful message. And sounds like you were guided to these roles.
I think so.
I think so too. And I know we're kind of near the end. I know a lot of people have places they need to go, and we were going to try to wrap up about 45 or 50 minutes after we started. So let me just jump into the place of life body selection. You saw a TV screen that you could fast forward with your mind and 4 pictures of potential lives. Do you remember what any of those were? And then about the life you chose.
I do remember there was a political family, a
A
very
wealthy family,
yeah. There was a janitor. It was a male.
a male
Uh,
laborer. I remember that.
then there was the
And a
Leah.
beautiful African American woman.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yes.
And,
So
and then
and
you
then I
chose
chose.
a family of average workers.
Yep. And I'm so happy that I did
I
because
know.
appreciate where I'm going, and I wouldn't have any other way. Yeah, it's been. I look back, and there's times where I look back of my life, even with sad times or tragic time. I am like, I have had an amazing life, and by no means I didn't pick the wealthy family. I didn't, it's like I just wow, I am so grateful for the life that I've lived and for what's ahead of me.
Yeah. And that's what it said, is you said, if you could get past the challenges, it had a happy ending. And it would
Uh,
be a life of love and fun and freedom and self-love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I got to tell you, the past 2 years, even though it was like pandemic ridden, it's just it's been amazing. And I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for you, Vondie. So
Oh,
thank you. You've always been, so supportive and someone that I could talk to and like a cheerleader, we're like,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you.
And
I
that's why
feel
I
the same
interviewed
way.
you. That's why I
Yes.
had to
Okay.
interview
So speaking of, so thank you, Leah, for
you.
being on. And if you can hang out for a minute just while we wrap up. So if you want to learn more about Leah, you can follow her on her Instagram, and that way you can keep track of what she's doing and her roles and her new show. So Leticia is going to post that into the comment section, my assistant, her Instagram link, and then also a link to her show, From Leah with Love. And it's the episode where she interviewed me. So that will be fun. In fact, I realized I think I was wearing the same shirt.
Because that looks good on you.
There you go. There you go. All right. And so just wrapping up, I wanted to make sure and let you know those things. I told Leah I have so many notes written down. I wasn't sure I'd be able to see them all. So we want to thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Leah, so much for being here with us today. And next week, we're going to transition into July, which will be about brave souls. And so my brave assistant is going to be sharing her past life session next week. And so I think that's everything. Unless, Leah, did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, there is one thing I'd love to share is that everybody who's watching today or who is going to watch, just don't give up on any dreams that you have, even if you think it's so impossible. The reason why it's calling to you is because that's in alignment with who you are. So just follow that. No matter what that looks like, just follow that.
That's a great way to wrap up. Thank you, Leah. Thank you again. Love you.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And join us next week for another episode of Soul Guide.